A very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the evening review. My name is Toivan Jabela. Tonight on the platform, we are hosting Kae Matundu-Tjiparuro. He is a retired veteran journalist, former editor, and also columnist, but perhaps importantly, a descendant of the Ovaherero genocide victims. And we are here to discuss, among others, the declaration that was made today by government that the 28th of May going forward will be the Genocide Remembrance Day after many years of wrangling about that subject. Kai, thank you for making time. Thank you really for making time. It's your first time on the platform. We hope to have you more in the future, given your knowledge and understanding of issues around genocide. But perhaps your reaction first and foremost to today's announcement.
To what effect was the announcement? You cannot take things for granted. What announcement? Yeah.
Yeah, that the 28th of May going forward will be the Genocide Remembrance Day.
Okay. Personally, I have been subscribing to such a day.
Yeah.
It comes from a motion that was put in Parliament by the Honorable Mamberwa, who was the Swan representative in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
Now that was 2016. Now we are in 2024.
8 years later.
8 years later. I hope it is too good to be true.
Yeah.
This is an election year, but I have got no reason, to believe that this is just an election gimmick. But mind you, between now and whenever it is going to be implemented, you don't know what is going to transpire.
Yeah.
But I cannot believe that the government would make such an announcement and renege on it. Perhaps it might take some time before it is implemented.
Yeah.
But for me, as a descendant of the survivors of genocide, I think it is good news, and I'm sure to some other fellow descendants, and mark my word, I'm saying to some other fellow descendants,
Yes.
because there are also many fellow descendants who also feel otherwise.
Yes.
But because I subscribe to that day, for me it is a good news, and I'm sure to some others who subscribe to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think government would be playing games, political games, around something so important and so sensitive. So they are saying this date is effective from 2025. That is when we will see the 28th becoming a public holiday and dedicate the day to the said events of 1904 and 1908. But there is still some debate, like I said in my intro, some wrangling among the descendants. Some wanted the 2nd of October to be declared as that. But it has now settled for the 28th, and you said yourself that you supported the 28th. Is there any specific reason why you subscribe to the 28th?
Yeah, because when we're talking about genocide, we are not only speaking about Ovaherero.
Yeah. And
the 2nd of October pertains only to Ovaherero and Ovambanderu. Therefore, this, as far as I'm concerned, the 28th of May has been picked up because it is common to many who suffered, and who were genocided, because this is a day on which people, or when the German colonial authority then declared, the consideration camps in which many people were incarcerated, that they would now be free to live in their country as free people.
Yeah.
Though eventually that was not the case, as you know. Despite that declaration, you still found people, in bondage, being used as like almost like slaves, hard labor on farms and so on. But I'm sure, I can imagine what would those people themselves has felt to hear that they are no longer, going to be confined into this concentration camps, knowing the conditions under which they were being held.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To what extent, Kae, do you think that this move by government is going to sort of gratify, to what extent do you think it will gratify the concerned communities, as far as, because of course the descendants of the Ovaherero and Nama genocide victims have been at war, if you like, with government, proverbial war, of course, around, expressing a lot of dissatisfaction. You, in your columns many years ago in New Era, you've written extensively about how unhappy you and members of your community were unhappy. An action like this by government, do you think it will go some ways to address, in part, the concerns of the communities?
Definitely, because this is not a day being imposed by the government on the descendants. This is a day which came through a motion that was put in Parliament by the Honorable Maberwa. And I'm sure, as a member of Parliament, he had a reason to bring this day, or to put this motion in Parliament. He must have consulted, fellow other descendants. And it cannot be a day that has come out of nowhere. And not only that, even there was a standing committee from Parliament which traveled all over the country. That is in 2000 and just 2015, because the public hearings, preceded, the adoption of the motion, because Parliament wanted to make sure that what are the sentiments of especially the people who are affected. And this is why this committee went all over the country. And I remember I attended one of the hearings, and the sentiments there was for a day like this one. So therefore, this is not a day that the government has imposed on the people.
So
it comes from
the
bottom up.
Well, one thing, Kae, is I've tweeted today that this is the greatest tragedy suffered anywhere, any day in Namibia, in the history of our existence. There's no bigger tragedy that has that could compare to the genocide. Why is this Remembrance Day only being declared 34 years after independence, when I thought a day like that could have been the first item on the calendar already back in 1990 or whatever year we started with our own calendar of events? This is happening 34 years later only.
You remember that the history about genocide has not been known widely in Namibia for some reasons. Obviously, we're talking about colonial history. And the battles of the Namas and Ovaherero in resisting, German colonialism was not widely known. And I remember effectively when we started to talk about genocide, it was after the 100 years commemoration of the genocide. This is when people, some people started to, something like this happened. So it's, and that is a problem of colonialism more than anything else, because any other history, even during colonial period, was being taught in schools.
Yeah.
But this history was nowhere in schools. As you would imagine, not only the history of genocide, even, our history of the struggle. Rarely was it being, taught in schools for good reasons. Who was in charge? South Africa was in charge.
But surely, Kae, our leaders, it might not have been widely known. The genocide subject might not have been known widely by the common man on the street. But our leaders, who were drawing up our calendars from the beginning, had known. There's no question about whether Sam Nujoma or Hage Geingob as prime minister at the time, or even Hendrik Witbooi, who was the vice president of SWAPO around those years, that they did not know. They knew about this thing. The reason why I'm asking, and sorry I'm putting you on the spot because it's not really for you to answer.
No, feel free. Feel free.
Because I'm putting you on the spot as if you are the one who made those decisions. But as an analyst, I'm just wondering, to what do you attribute the fact that it took us so long? Because some people are saying, look, it is because the people that were in power for many years are not descendants of victims, and they did not feel the pain as much as the people like yourself have felt. Do you think there's any credibility to such?
No, not necessarily, because I know in some books, even I recall one book which was, written by or edited by Professor Kachavivi, talking about the history of Namibia, from the liberation cycle to genocide. That aspect of our history is contained in there. But the most important thing is that I don't know whether you have heard about the saying which says, as long as, the lion remains a hunter, or remains hunted, it would continue, it shall not be telling its story. And it is a matter of, the narrative. Because, for instance, this genocide narrative is not only starting today, as far as I'm concerned, because the Ovaherero have been going to Okahanja. Where have they been going to Okahanja? That is, to rekindle the memories of the foremost Samuel Maharero. Why rekindle the memory of Samuel Maharero? Because it is him who led through the resistance, war. But how has that narrative been characterized in Namibia? It has just been referred to as either Herero Day or Red Flag Day. But in essence, is it just Herero Day or Red Flag Day? While its essence, its genesis, is a genocide. So it's because it's a matter of who has been, writing the narrative or telling the narrative.
Do you think, before we go on a break, do you think that this day, because part of the problem also that some people allude to is that I've written about how, in my editorial once, I remember maybe 8 or 2 years ago, about how Namibians tend to leave battles to others whenever they themselves are not affected. I give an example of genocide, a battle that is largely left to the affected communities. I don't see people from other tribes really rallying behind these communities actively. Once in a while, you see isolated statements of support here and there. But and then I gave in my editorial, I gave an example of also the red line that affects communities in the north. And when it's that conversation, then you see other communities in Namibia put their hands up and say, no, that is not our battle. So do you think that when an entire day is put aside and all of us in our conscience know that the reason why we didn't go to work today is because of this tragedy that happened in our country, do you think this will summon our collective consciousness to the events and perhaps have a different take on the event? But hold that view for me, Kae. We'll go on a small break, but that will be my question.
Okay.
We'll go for a short one and then be
All
back
right.
with Kae.
Month-end magic time at WB. Get 4 Knorr 50-gram soup packs for just $19.99. 2-liter WB HB cooking oil for only $64.99. 1-liter Clover Ultra UHT milk for $19.99. 750-gram Crossan Blackwell mayonnaise for $37.99. And 1 kg Jungle Oats for just $39.99 when you use your Smart Buy card. See more unbelievable deals at www.vurmanbrock.com. We care.
The conversation with Kae Matundu-Tjiparuro continues. So to my question, Kae, what do you say?
I don't think it is a matter of indifference on the part of those communities we might describe or characterize as not having been affected.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, even today, among the Ovaherero or Shiherero speaking people themselves, there are people who do not understand what is this hullabaloo all about. So it's just a matter of to what extent, because especially with the later day generation, you cannot expect them to have a full understanding, of what might have happened, especially if you tell them that this is something that happened, 100 years ago. And they said, they will turn their back on you and say, this old man is crazy. 100 years ago. So why do you bother about something that happened, 100 years ago? It is a matter of, what is that we value? And you cannot expect, the younger generation to really have a full understanding as well as value what genocide, might mean. Or
so do you think do you think that the day will then help bring that consciousness to say, because we ought to probe to say, why are we on holiday today? Ascension Day, that is the day that Jesus rose and then disappeared into...
Exactly, because it is not only one thing that I've found about Namibians. It's not only with respect to genocide. Even if you remember in those days how Workers' Day was observed, and you compare it to today, you'll see a whole lot of difference. Why? It is because, for instance, Workers' Day was born during that period of the liberation struggle, where the two were interlinked, and it had a wider appeal because it was also a matter of the workers themselves. They were conscious, because it would have been different if workers' rights was coined separately in isolation to the liberation struggle. It could have been different you would not have had, the same. But it's because it was linked to the liberation struggle in which everybody had bought into. And I think that is the thing. Even those people, who feels that they are the affected communities, to what extent have they been able to reach out to other communities for them to be able, to buy in? That is the significance of this day, because now this day will become national, because now genocide and the campaign for restorative justice is just seen as affecting, particular people. But when you look at it in a broader context, this country is affected.
Yes.
Because we are talking about, lack of population. We only in the latest, census have we been able to reach the 3 million mark. That is peanuts.
Yeah.
If you're talking in terms of development.
I was overseas the past few days. A number of us from Africa, and when I was telling some of those guys that we are 3 million people were laughing, saying, "What is the history behind that?" And I said, "Look, I don't know, but I think that genocide had a lot to do with it.
Exactly.
Because if more than 100,000 were killed, if they had reproduced at the time, our population would be much, much larger."
Exactly.
Yeah. But Kae, moving away from the date itself, because the date, of course, will serve as a stark reminder to what our communities have gone through. But the more important things have not been addressed as far as genocide is concerned. Your t-shirt is written, "It cannot be about us without us." It's a slogan very common within particularly the Nama and Ovaherero communities, and that stems from the feeling that the whole genocide pact that birthed this 18 billion package that was announced more than a year ago, that is unsatisfactory. How do we make sure that on top of this remembrance date, which is very, very important, of course, that the real issues get addressed?
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, the bottom line is not how much money. Because those who have been engaged in this campaign for recognition or acknowledgement by Germany of the genocide their colonial regime committed against Namibians, particularly the Ovaherero and Namas. It is a matter of, how is their history recognized and remembered? That's the most important thing. Money, as far as I'm concerned, is a secondary matter. But I mind you, among our communities, there are people who, when you talk about genocide, they only think about money, because that's why they are getting tired when you're saying, that the deal that has been put on the table is not the right deal. Some people are saying, no, but we can start there, because they are only thinking in terms of money. And one cannot blame them, because lately within our country, we know the hardships our communities are going through in terms of livelihood. And that is what is driving, many people. Some people, especially the elder generation like me, I want to do the fruits now. I don't want to eat tomorrow. Where would I be tomorrow?
When I'm gone.
Those are those sentiments which are valid, because you're talking about reparation, which should also accrue to them. But if we start to think that when we are advocating for reparation, is not so much that we reap benefits now. We have to think about the future generation.
Yes.
Like myself personally, I have been playing devil's advocate, saying, as far as I'm concerned, if Germany commits from now and for the next, how many years, to take a good cohort of youngsters for education in their university, that to me is tantamount to reparation. I would not want to ask anything else, because it is about the future generation. And the future generation is in terms of, for them to be equipped and help build, and reconstruct their country. And through that, reap the necessary benefits that they can reap. They cannot reap benefits by handouts. We must always, be careful about that syndrome and that modality.
So, the leadership bickering within, particularly Ovaherero communities, two men each call himself a paramount chief, and each one commands his own following. Do you think that situation is untenable, that it creates also this, it weakens the negotiation position for particularly Ovaherero, because of course, I think broadly speaking, all these factions want the same, they want reparations, but the extent to which that must be done differs with each faction. Some factions are saying, look, those that are seen to be pro-government and close to government, they were okay with even what was put on the table. They're saying, look, for us it's a matter of Germany accepting what they did, apologizing and giving us what they can, because there's no price to human life. So we can't say this price is less, give us more, as if we can put a price tag on human life. Others are saying the entire package is a joke. So that is where the differences comes from. Do you think that if these communities were united, one paramount chief, or the whole community rallying behind one leader, do you think it puts also the Ovaherero in a better negotiation position?
You see, this issue of, paramount chief is historical, because when you're talking about paramountcy, who's paramount over who? And what is our past? Because as far as the Ovaherero community is concerned, everybody was a chief in his and her own right. To a certain degree, this thing of paramountcy is colonially imposed, because I know even during the German colonial era, some of the chiefs were imposed on communities because even then the German colonial authority would recognize any chief, which was like divide and rule. And that is something that perhaps, the leaders themselves could not realize. And as far as I'm concerned, the differences that is being talked about and the divisions, how fundamental are they? To be honest, I'm from those communities and I haven't seen the fundamentality of the differences other than personal echoes of the respective leaders. And have they been able, to talk and speak to one another? They don't. Because if they are serious about the bigger picture, which is, the campaign for Germany to recognize and acknowledge genocide. Why would any chief be concerned whether who's carrying these messages is not him and somebody else? Yeah, that to me, that's why I'm saying, that cannot be fundamental.
Absolutely.
As long as we are all carrying the same message.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kae, thank you for your time and for really coming through and sharing with us very important perspectives on a very important day. But we hope to have you on the platform in the future.
Please, if you think I've been useful,
absolutely,
I'll very much appreciate it.
No, wonderful.
Yeah, okay.
That's Kae Matundu-Tjiparuro. He's a descendant of the Ovaherero genocide victims, sharing with us his perspectives after the 28th of May was declared Genocide Remembrance Day after many years of a debate around that. Thank you for watching.